You're listening to the Elevate Your Call to Service podcast. Here you'll gain tools to lead proactively, conquer overwhelm, and revitalize your law enforcement teams and your agency.
We're your hosts, Michael and Cathy McIntosh. Mike is a retired sheriff and current division chief in the Denver metro area with nearly 40 years of law enforcement experience.
Cathy is a business and branding expert and a longtime law enforcement wife with a unique perspective on the human side of law enforcement.
Together, we share a powerful blend of practical experience and insightful roadmaps to help you elevate your call to service. Welcome back to the Elevate Your Call to Service podcast. Today, we're joined by two leaders who have spent their careers serving, shaping, and strengthening the people around them. First, we have JC, Buddy, Johnson. Buddy spent more than 3 decades with the Georgia State Patrol, retiring as troop captain and commander. Today, he's serving as county manager and chief deputy in Brooks County, teaching and consulting through Columbus State University, the FBI National Academy Associates, and his own company, T&B Training. His work centers on leadership, strategic planning, and helping agencies build resilience. Buddy lives in Valdosta, Georgia with his wife, Tracy, and he brings a wealth of wisdom with him today. We're also very honored to have Vinny Greany with us. Vinny recently retired as deputy chief with the NYPD, and while his resume speaks for itself, he'll tell you his greatest titles are husband of 20 years and dad to his son. Relationships are the heart of his leadership, building them, strengthening them, and helping others understand why they matter. Together, Buddy and Vinny bring decades of experience, practical insight, and a genuine passion for developing leaders. We're excited to dive into this conversation today and very, very happy to have both of you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Cathy.
Vinny, Buddy, we had an opportunity to participate in a course together out here in Colorado, and you two were the instructors of that wellness and resilience course. And one of the things that I just found so amazing about that course, first of all, just the heart that both of you had on display from the first minutes that we were in that room. As we know in law enforcement, you bring a group of folks together, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time, especially from law enforcement officers who are very suspicious by nature anyway, to really start to dive in and really have that trust with one another. This type of course, there's a lot of vulnerability in that course. And that's another thing that law enforcement officers aren't real good at. But I have to tell you, the two of you just broke those barriers, took down those walls that may have been there walking into the room. And I would say within the first 30 minutes of that class, that group of individuals that were there, and as we went around the room, some of them didn't even know why they were there, but they were there. You guys had already kind of captured that trust and started that culture of just really being able to share with one another and knowing that it was going to be kind of one of those safe places. And I was just so impressed with both of you, and super excited to have you join me on this podcast. We really try on this podcast to first and foremost just offer guidance, wisdom, leadership to our listeners. And our listeners, some of them will be officers and some of them will be part of command staff. And when I think about this course, and I really didn't know what to expect when I got into it either, this 3-day course, it just so encapsulates kind of what we need right now. It's almost that final missing piece in law enforcement to me to really round out the whole of that officer, of that deputy, to make sure that we as organizations, we as leaders, we as partners are taking care of those that we work alongside, those that are working for us, those that are working with us. And I was just so incredibly impressed with the course and the way that the two of you delivered that. And it just struck me, one, that I really did want to get you on this podcast, but two, where does that passion come from? Why is it that you guys jumped into this from the very beginning? And I don't want to, I don't know who wants to start with that, whether it's Buddy, you or Vinny, but just if you would just share your heart as to why it was so important to you to be a part of this for our law enforcement officers.
Vinny, you want to take this one off bat, man?
Sure, buddy.
Go ahead.
Mike, you unpacked a lot on us there.
Yeah.
Appreciate those comments, and very happy that it was a successful training course. When you walk into a police training, the most important thing is trust, right? We've gone through training in the academy, in-service trainings, and if you don't have that trust from the beginning, half of that class is going to shut you down. And then you're coming into an environment where, you mentioned it, where we're vulnerable, and we're going to open up, and we're going to rip off Band-Aids and big bandages that we've been carrying, and really talk about our wounds, right? Battle wounds that we've had, scars that we've developed over the years. And now you're in a room with colleagues that you may not know, and then you start hearing their stories. And that's the setting that me and Buddy try to create right from the beginning. We're going to come in, it's Buddy and Vinny. We gotta quickly establish that trust so that course could roll on successfully. So that's the main purpose of when Buddy and I walked in, was really to put ourselves out there, show that we're vulnerable, briefly tell you about us and some of the things that we've encountered, and let's get right into it. Let's get some good work done so we could all leave in a better place.
Yeah, first off, Mike, thank you and Cathy for having us on here. This is great. I'm humbled. Like Vinny said, the passion comes from our heart and the connection with our head, which we talk about in the course. And for us, and I can't speak for Vinny, but I think it's probably very similar. When it was first sent out by the FBI National Academy and Associates for us to go, myself and Vinny and about 14 other officers from across the country, we went to this class. I really didn't know what I was going to. I knew I was going to something health and wellness related, but I just didn't know what. I had the same apprehension that you were referring to, Mike. No, you got to build trust with me. I'm just like everybody else, and I think that's probably one of the toughest first days for me, was determining what are we here for? Is this really something what are we doing? What is this? What are we talking about? And man, by day two, Vinny was probably very much the same way. By day two, man, I was so bought in because instructors did exactly what Vinny was talking about, where they opened themselves up, they became vulnerable, and then I realized that, oh wow, I got a lot to unpack too. And then listening to all the stories of all the guys in that room. Of course, there was everybody in that room with 25, 30-year veterans. Some are retired already, so you can imagine the stories. That's when the passion came on for me. Is like, man, we should have had this years ago. And you unpack something else, Mike, that I think is very, very dead on. Is that this is that 360 degree of training. It just didn't quite get there in our careers, and this is all law enforcement. It wasn't being taught how to deal with what you go through. We know how to go into it, man. We're good at that, and we're good while we're in it because we trained for that. But when it was over, man, we just next call. The CAD's dinging, man. You got to go. The radio's calling. You got to go. And we didn't do anything to deal with what we just went through. And everybody's like, well, you suck it up. Because like Vinny says, that was how it was. Suck it up. You got to go. And unfortunately, that's what has created so many of the issues we're seeing manifested now with PTS and PTSD. Those that have been diagnosed, we're beginning to see it really heavy in the law enforcement, public safety community in general. And that's why this course has been so valuable for me to be able to go out to teach these tools, to give the tools necessary for these guys to take them and use them and maybe avoid getting into that post-traumatic stress spiral that we talk about. They're able to find that post-adversity growth, which is what we want. Come out of it. Yeah, we can't take stress away, but we can help you manage it better. And man, it was great for me. And the only way this ever works, and I'm going to let Vinny talk some more, but the only way this course that we teach works, and we say it in the course that you were in as well, you learn it, yes, but you have to live it. And if you live it, then you'll be teaching it. And that's kind of our whole goal. Learn it, live it, then teach it. Because teaching it will come natural. But if you're not living it, man, there'll be no passion.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is we try to get everybody to understand, put tools in place, man, and watch your life transform. So that's where the passion comes from. That's why we chase it. Vinny and I both been doing it for a while, and I give full credit to the FBI National Academy and Associates for taking the initiative many years ago to go after this. The armed forces have been doing it for years. I'm very proud to be a part of that organization. Very proud to have been able to take that training and do other things with it for states, Georgia, New Jersey, Iowa, and go down the list. And of course, we've been across the country as well.
Yeah. One of the biggest mantras that caught me in the beginning, Mike, was saving lives, families, and careers in that order. That really hit home with me. Saving my own life, right? So I could help my family, keep my family life in order, the family structure, the people that are behind me, the people that are supporting me all the way through my career, and then the job, and then the department, right? So if you operate in order, it really sets the stage for being resilient, taking care of yourself, keeping that family and your relationship strong, and then a job a distant third. And when you have it in that order, the resiliency tools will be so strengthened.
Yep.
And as I hear you guys say that, I just go back to for years and even still, I think in a lot of organizations, but I go back to when I started, that certainly is not the order that your leaders or those that are bringing you into the organization that they would espouse, right? It's like your job comes first. Take care of those out in the community. Take care of your organization, and then when you have an opportunity, take care of your family. If there's any time left there, then make sure you're taking care of yourself. And it's been backwards for years. You're so right. So when you talk about resilience, what's the simplest definition of resilience?
Vinny, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, we're all going to face trauma, adversity, whether it's death in the family, going to major incidents, right? I was a 9/11 responder, rescue and recovery effort operations. That was the beginning of my career. And Halloween terrorist attack and mass protests. So we all have those job related issues. And then what about at home, right? And it's the stress of purchasing a house, getting married, having children. Like, you're dumping all this stuff together. So resiliency is the ability and the mindset and the understanding that you're going to go through storms. It's going to rain, some vicious storms, but on the other side, we're looking for growth. How going through that storm are we going to get stronger to survive the next storm? Because it's coming. The next storm's coming. Something traumatic, it will happen to us again in our life. As we age, we're going to deal with more things. So the ability to strengthen relationships and just having that growth mindset, be able to push through the storm and come out the other side stronger and have that growth.
Absolutely. Probably the best definition is the ability to withstand, to recover, and to grow. That's as simple as you can put it. That's probably the most simplistic way of saying it. Is everything Vinny just talked about. Withstanding, law enforcement, public safety, we're good at the withstanding part. We've gone it. We know, again, we go into it fine. We're prepared for that. It's the recovery we have failed in training since the beginning of time. And the beauty of it is we're beginning to see it more and more being implemented now into the training programs across the country, which is exactly what the goal was. To say, well, we really haven't moved far. Well, I think we've moved a lot further than we give ourselves credit for. This thing was 2017 when we started with Vinny and I, and here we are almost 10 years later, 9 years later. But we're beginning to see that this is a serious issue now. People are actually taking mental health and wellness serious, especially law enforcement. But that definition of withstanding, recovery, that's the tools, putting them in place, and the growth, recognizing, all right, I've been through it. This is what I dealt with. That's a scar. And there's a difference between a scar and an open wound. And when your brain goes through this stuff, that trauma initially is an open wound. And the goal is, can we suture that up with the tools, heal it, give it time to heal, and then it becomes a scar. Scars are fine. Scars are what build our character. Scars remind us where we've been. But if we leave that wound open, and that's been the problem for years in our profession, the wound stays open. And over time, it can get infected, and over time, it can become worse. And we see people at 15, 20 years, that's when we see this stuff manifest itself, that they have sucked it up so long, now it's coming out. So the resilience tools, putting those in place, that sutures up that wound. That allows them to move forward. Like Vinny said, just because you're over one up doesn't mean the next one's not coming. But I'm better prepared for the next one. And I'm better prepared for the next one each time I go through something like that. So, yeah, I don't know if there's a true simple definition, but withstand, recover, and grow. Simple as that. As simple as that.
I'm wondering, you said that you learn it, you live it, and then you teach it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give me a before and after picture personally when you were going through the learn it, live it, and what?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Yeah, for me, I know Vinny's got his answer too as well. Before going through the training, not really understanding the recovery side of it at all. Actually, what happens is or at least for me personally, I can speak, and I know I've heard this from others in classes before. We essentially suck it up as if it doesn't bother us. We will say that stuff doesn't bother me. That's the number one answer of a cop. Well, I've been through this, but it doesn't bother me. And the reality of that is, yeah, we do suck it up and we do compartmentalize it somewhere, but it manifests itself at the worst time possible. It's going to pop up again, a certain smell, a certain situation we go in that's very similar. All of a sudden, it's back in your face. And I think your question is, my personal experience was after getting the class and after understanding the tool and beginning to live it, because I had to do that first. Before you can teach it, you got to live it. When I started living it and I started putting those things in place and dealing with the traumas that I had had and dealing with the trauma, or not necessarily the traumas, but also the daily adversities I was going through and not allowing those to just explode, I began to get more control of myself. And I think for me, the living it part, can I take control of the one thing that I do control? And that's me. I don't control everybody else. I don't control the world. I don't control the situations that may come my way sometimes, but I control me. And I think that's the biggest piece of the live it for me, is learning to control myself so that I don't spiral out into something that it's not. And I'm sure Vinny's got a whole nother line of way of carrying that as well.
Yeah, great point, buddy. That's phenomenal. For me personally, going through the training and then starting to living it was all about the relationships and really understanding, like, hey, if you look at divorce rates in law enforcement, it's like 80% of relationships don't even survive. So usually the men and women are young when they start their career, right? In their 20s, 30s. They may be in a relationship or they may be seeking a relationship. Don't you want that to be successful? Don't we deserve that as law enforcement to have successful, thriving relationships away from, the department? Of course. So for me, the training and then the post training really highlighted that relationship, the meaning of my relationship, to really lock in and understand the value and necessity that I need people around me to be successful in my career and to actually enjoy life and not be disgruntled and go down that negative spiral that we could easily slide down, especially in the law enforcement community.
I think it's also important to point out here to your viewers or to listeners on the podcast that the reason we do this is because of what Vinny just said, those high numbers in those really dangerous areas of our lives, our health, not just our mental health, but our physical health, and then in our social health, our career health. Of course, the suicide rates for law enforcement is ridiculous and still is ridiculous. And the sad part is nobody really knows what that number is. There's a number out there. We don't really know what it is because most are unreported or they're false or they're reported incorrectly. I'm not going to say falsely, incorrectly. But when you talk about suicide, you're not talking about just someone taking their own life. You're talking about career suicide where we see officers do things at a 15, 20, they've been great, and all of a sudden just do something that tanks their whole career. Their families, they stray from those because the stress has carried them out and they've isolated themselves and they lose their families. That's a suicide. That's a form of that. Health. I mean, like Vinny said, I mean, how many officers are just having heart attacks? And it used to be, what would you get in your 50s? You need to see about it. No, man. Uh, we see them falling out in 30s and 40s because that stress level has gotten to that point. So this stuff helps you keep yourself physically more in shape, and we pay better attention to ourselves, but we also do some really good things with our families, putting them first with our work, kind of putting that in the where it should be in the perspective. So yeah, pointing out to the viewers why do we do it. We're trying to save people's lives, man. um that average of 57 to 62, that age of 57 to 62, that's no good. And that's how long a law enforcement officer after 30 years, that's the average expected lifespan, 57 to 62. And that's just good. We got to do better. We got to do better.
You're exactly right. And we've seen that so many times with personal friends and family. I know when Mike started working at the jail 100 years ago, he'd come home and say, I met so-and-so. What's his wife like? Oh, he's divorced. He's divorced. He's divorced. And I, look, is this a requirement? It really frightens me. What's happening? Is this a requirement of your job? And, we ultimately decided, no, we're going to stand for something different and figure out a way to make it work. And it was kind of like feeling our way in the dark because there weren't any rules. There weren't any guidelines. There wasn't any support or help. So happy that this is coming about. I wish it was 20 years ago, to where it was more mainstream like it is now, but I'm very, very pleased and thrilled to hear what's going on in the wellness world these days.
Well, one of the things, and I'm glad you said that because I said the same thing. Vinny said the same. Everybody says the same thing for the most part when you ask the class. Man, I wish we had it 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And I had to have that realistic moment of saying, yeah, I wish I did. But the reality is 20 or 30 years ago, we couldn't have taught this. There was such a stigma attached to anything. If you ever said you had a problem in law enforcement, they just ousted you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we couldn't have had it 20 or 30 years ago. So what do we do now? We can have it now, and we can get it out there. And the stigma is slowly but surely beginning to falter away. You don't have near the stigma you used to have. And the younger generations, say what you want, they understand mental health. And that's who's going into the workforce. So that's a good thing for this part of it, is that they understand this already. They just giving them the tools, they'll take them and they live for it. So some of us old hats, myself, Vinny, my old people, Vinny, and a young guy, but myself, Mike, all of us, our age group, they're a little resistant to it to start with. But those who have been through it, those that understand it and tried it, they're the best champions we have, or the older generations. So yes, ma'am. Good.
Yeah, and I also think it's, from a leadership perspective, and you talk about, like Vinny and you, and and me being in those leadership positions, it's so important that we get it, because if we get it, then it it we can create that culture where there isn't a stigmatism. It is, like somebody was out last night and, got their arm hurt. They went to the doctor. Well, somebody was also out last night and, they saw some things that they really don't know how to deal with. Well, let's get them some help. It's the same exact thing. And you're right. I never thought about it the way that you said it, that it would have been accepted. If you would have talked about it, it was like, that's not in law enforcement. That's not in the military. We don't do those things in our professions. If you can't take what's going on, you're in the wrong profession. And that you started to kind of have to self-reflect, and then it was like, okay, I either shut up about it and continue it on in this profession, or I have to jettison myself out of this profession because it wasn't acceptable at that time. When you guys are out instructing, are you seeing more agencies that are wanting basically more, and that are wanting to take the lead in ensuring that, at least in their community, in their sphere of influence, that there is a noted change in the right direction?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. I would say in the last 10 years, it grew like wildfire, where every agency is basically developing a wellness team, whether it's one officer, whether it's a whole office full of people. All resources that you could possibly think of are available. And I'll just use the NYPD, the largest municipal law enforcement agency in the world. If we rewind 15 years ago, there wasn't a wellness team. There really wasn't the resources. In the last 10 years, it's like 100% turnaround, or total 180, where we have a wellness app. You could go on the app. You have resources. Psychiatrists are on call, where it's an anonymous call. You could call, get a psychiatrist direct on the phone any time of the day. We have a list of clergy members for each denomination of religion. Peer support. All those things are now in place, structured, where somebody out in the field could just reach out. If they're comfortable, they may be comfortable talking to a peer, right? Peer support. They may be more comfortable just one-on-one privately talking to a psychiatrist at no out-of-pocket cost. So the resources now are tenfold to what they were years ago. And that makes a huge difference. It's saving lives. Statistically, we won't be able to probably evaluate how many lives and careers and relationships are saved, but it's really meaningful. And I think all the agencies across the country are adapting and growing. Each year it's getting better.
And to piggyback off of something Vinny just said, is that there's so many different factions of what we can do in the mental health and wellness area that law enforcement is picking up. But I'll give a shout out to the state of Iowa and many of the smaller agencies there. They have they've gone to their governments and asked for funding for psychiatry, for their people to be able to go to a psychiatrist once a year. They require them. Some of the agencies are actually requiring officers to go once a year. And if they got a lot of pushback, you can imagine, the officers, I don't want to do that. And then what they found was, after they were doing it, was like, oh man, I need to go back again. And to see the governing agencies see the value in it and paying for that, that's awesome. And that's something that we try to get across when we go out to sell this program, if you will, sell it. One of the things, if I'm talking to agencies about it and saying, hey, look, I know there's some upfront cost about doing this, but look what you're saving. For every officer that you keep healthy, they're not using sick time. They're not, going to the hospital and burning up your health system. They're at work and they're healthy. Okay, how much money is that saving you?
Right.
If I've got one officer that goes to the psychiatrist or goes to see someone and sits down and comes out and they're good, hey man, I didn't lose an officer. And the other thing is, it builds morale. It builds the people. The leaders are much better in the organization. And when you see those things come together, now what I see is the attrition rate doesn't knock us out. I'm not losing people early, or I'm not losing them over a 50-cent raise at the town next door. I'm seeing that attrition rate go down, and at the same time, morale's up. And when morale's up, the recruiting better, and I'm getting better candidates for the job positions that are open. So there's so many things that are affected just by getting your people their health and wellness in a situation where they are going out and becoming the best recruiters for your agency. So leadership should really be looking at this hard, because we've seen that over the years. That change has been awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, that's great. If you were to, and believe it or not, it's kind of time to start talking about wrapping this up. But if you were to, from a small agency perspective that may not have a lot of resources available, what are one or two things that the officers or the deputies or the leaders of that organization could start doing to head in the right direction from a wellness and resilience perspective?
I want Vinny to answer this because I know what he did in his own precinct there in New York. So I'm going to let him take this one. He did a great job. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah. So what Buddy's referring to is just small little drips of resiliency. So, a roll call in New York City could be on a 3 to 11 shift. It could be 20 to 30 officers. Sometimes it's much smaller. If it's one of our smaller commands, it could be 5 or 6 officers. So the size doesn't matter. It's you going in there, delivering a very quick message at roll call. Of course, at roll call, we're going to get our assignment. What call do we have? Who am I working with? Where am I working this particular tour, etc. But hit them with a little drip of resiliency. So I would go in and just hit them with a gratitude letter, right? Just very simple. Hey, we're coming up on the holiday season. A holiday season in, December right now is very stressful in the family setting. It could be, right? For some of us, if it's a financial issue, sick family member around the holidays, or somebody recently lost, the stress of knowing that you have to work and you won't be home with the kids to open gift or whatever it is, it's stress on all of us around the holiday season. So I go in and just do a quick mindset shift, right? Hey, you guys, Mike, in the last 24 hours, tell me something that you're grateful for. The first time it might look at you like you're crazy, but I mean, I've done it in the middle of Harlem, in one of the busiest precincts in New York City. Hey, Mike, what are you grateful for in the last 24 hours? Answer that seriously. In the last 24 hours, I finally got some sleep. Hey, that's great. There's plenty of people that would love to be in your shoes with a good night's sleep, right? Something simple. It's a quick mindset shift. It's like a coach talking to the team, and now we break that huddle, and now we go on patrol and serve others, right? So it's really just bringing them into that present moment, just for a few minutes. Hey, what am I grateful for? Yeah, you know what? We're right. With all this crazy stuff going on, I'm still okay. I'm gonna be all right. Let me go out there and serve. Let me go out there.
Yeah, I'm there's Vinny's got so many great things, man. I know he could go another hour if he wanted to. For me, what I'll say for the smaller agencies, if you want to, as a leader, the number one thing, hey, go in there and find the most positive things you can talk about your people. Yeah, you got to deal with the problems. Nobody's saying you don't do that. We're going to deal with the problems, but don't just focus on the problems. And that's one of the biggest, I think, inherent problems with law enforcement across the country, maybe public safety all around. We focus on only the problems and we forget to talk about things that people are doing well. Uh, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, self-actualization, number one thing on the list. If you make people understand their worth and what they do is worthwhile, you're already ahead of the game because they're going to be more positive. And so for me, that's the little thing for a leader to be thinking about is how can I make you feel good about what you do? I've got to find those little nuggets, as Vinny was talking about. I've got to find little nuggets of gratitude. And yeah, we'll deal with the problems, but let's talk about the other things too, the good stuff, because that's what keeps people motivated. Absolutely.
So awesome. I can tell you that that's one of the things that you guys started that class with. First day, maybe even with the first hour, I don't remember how quickly it was, but it was fairly quickly. And you asked us just to jot down, three things that three things of gratitude, right? That we were thankful for, or that, that was kind of positive. And then that was reinforced every day in the class. And, we just kind of put those stickies up, or, we'd tell our partner next to us, and even simple little things. You guys have some gold there with that, because it's just the simple little things get your heart and your mind set in that direction, instead of that negative Nelly attitude that is so easy to come into work with. And then you're sitting in a briefing, and you can really start to nitpick things that happen during the last shift, or things that you're going to have to take care of during this shift, because things that have come down from the top. But man, to be able to start with, what are we grateful for? What are we thankful for? It is amazing how that can really change that heart, that mindset for that employee to go out and do what it is that they're going to do through the course of that day.
Well, Mike, one thing to remember in this, there's many different versions of what I'm going to say. I've heard it in different ways, but the way I say it is tragedy, joy. They can't exist at the same time, or chaos and joy. They can't exist at the same time in your mind. And that's why we focus so hard finding those little nuggets of gratitude, because that might be all you have that day. But if that's all I have and it keeps me focused and keeps me calm, I can deal with that negative stuff I've got to deal with. But they can't exist at the same time. And I think if people understand that, that's just, and again, we want to make sure that that's just one of many tools that this course talks about. We get deep into all kind of different facets, not just gratitudes, but that's a huge piece of it, is understanding those gratitudes. So there again, lots to learn here, man, and lots to practice. And the more people we teach, the better off it is. So.
Well, we're going to put your information in our show notes, so that our listeners can have it. And, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe a couple of them reach out to you guys.
Sure.
I can't thank you enough for taking the time to join us today. I can't thank you enough for what you guys are doing. I know that class that I was in, we were so appreciative of the two of you, and the material that you produce, but even more so, just it goes back to that living part, living it. It was very, very evident that the two of you live it. And just like you said, if you live it, you can teach it, right? So, thank you for joining us today. It's been awesome. And, you guys have a very blessed Christmas season.
You do the same.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Merry
You guys.
Christmas. Thank you very much.
Ready to build a stronger team, improve your reputation, strengthen officer safety, and recruit top talent? Visit us at leleaders.com and schedule a call with us today. We'd love to discuss how our coaching programs, workshops, and keynote addresses can help you build proactive leaders in a reactive profession.
In the meantime, if you like what you've heard today, we'd love your 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.